114, Chemical Reaction. Weeds had overtaken the ship like an abandoned garden. As Ryan's group advanced into the metal bowels of the alchemist's base, they ran into more and more alien plant life. Greenish slime leaked from the walls, while snake-like red roots and fanged purple flowers dug holes into the floor. Eventually, the corridors became so overwhelmed by vegetation that sunshine moved at the front to torch a path ahead. Often, they would find the broken remains of armored aliens, their helmets melted by lasers, their shielding pierced by powerful rounded projectiles. Yet they never found any trace of what killed them. Their slayers didn't leave corpses behind when they died. So if I follow correctly, Shroud said, after Ryan had finished briefing his team. This is an alien spaceship from a long-lost imperialistic civilization, and the creature we fought was one of its soldiers. The alchemist pillaged their technology, but accidentally woke up the remaining troops left in stasis, and now they're fighting her for control of the facility. And an alien deity gave you a divine mandate to destroy this place before the prisoners can escape. Pretty much.
Yeah,
Ryan replied, while Len checked out the data the panda had harvested from the alchemist's computers. The man-bear himself advanced on all fours, an ear against the walls. Mr. See-Through snickered, unconvinced. Should I call you Joan of Arc? You did hear voices. God loves the reptilians too, Ryan preached, so long as they stay in Reptiland. Why? Unlike Shroudy Maddie, who remained in denial, Saren had listened to the explanations with solemn silence. Why? Why did Eva Fabre make genomes and psychos possible? I guess she wanted to protect us, the panda suggested, trying to be charitable. To give us powers, so we could defend ourselves? What good could have come from empowering people like Mekrin and Augustus? Leo Hargraves asked at the front, skeptical. The former alone killed more people than both world wars combined. Though Mr. Wave is thankful that she graced the universe with the brilliance of Mr. Wave. The boastful genome paused briefly. Mr. Wave didn't find a way to avoid the repetition. Still, he agrees with the rising sun. The walk doesn't match the talk. The aliens aren't coming either. Ryan shrugged, as his armor picked up vibrations. Well, except those inside this place. And how do you figure we destroy this ship in the first place? Shroud kept nagging him. I thought we might have a last-minute desperate escape, with a digital countdown. Maybe a round number. I would rather avoid that, Shroud replied dryly, arms crossed. Besides our own lives, if elixirs are truly sapient, helpful beings, then blowing up the ship would kill them too. Human life isn't the only kind with value, Sunshine agreed, having now destroyed the plant growth with his shining light. I agree we cannot let the horrors of this ship escape into the wider world, quick save, but blowing it up should be a last resort. Truth be told, Ryan kinda hoped that reaching the ship's control center would provide an alternative solution too. Nice Guy might have been grating, but Shroud was correct that it deserved to live. However, the courier suspected his mere presence might cause the ship to collapse anyway. Ryan's black power was a paradox, destabilizing reality with its very existence. The courier guessed that Earth's dimension was solid enough to absorb the damage, but the spaceship's thin place was a small, artificial construct. Ryan degraded it a little further with each time stop. Eventually, it might even collapse on itself. Had the Violet Ultimate One foreseen this possibility? That Illuminati creature could control all of space and time, if Darkling was to be believed. It might very well be omniscient. The panda raised a paw. Sifu, I'm hearing something through the metal. My armor is picking up vibrations too, Ryan said, analyzing the readings. Where do they come from, my young Pandawan? The left, his sidekick replied, using his sensitive bear ears to pick up sound. Explosions. They must be pretty powerful for their noise to go through the ship's shielding, Leo Hargraves said. Considering the increasing number of corpses, we must be approaching the site of a battle. Can you offer more details? I will try. The panda took a deep breath, intimidated by sunshine. I hear something big and heavy moving, and impacts. From the form of the ship, and the way we moved inside so far, the left should lead us to the front, Shroud pointed out. If the architecture is anything like Earth's aircrafts, then it should be where the command center is located, Leo Hargraves guessed with a nod. Timmy, can you bring us as close to the sound source as possible? Yes, sir, the panda raised a paw to his forehead in a military salute. Of course, sir. The rest of you, stay on guard, Sunshine said. Neither side of this war is an ally. And so the panda took the lead, an ear against the ground. As they took twists and turns, Ryan's armor picked up more and more vibrations and other flux energy activities. The very fabric of reality seemed to weaken the further they progressed. Riri, I finished analyzing the data, Len said, as the group left the cramped corridor for the remains of a large hangar the size of an airport. The metal walls had been melted away, and Ryan could see the scrapped remains of robots and vehicles everywhere he looked. Clearly, a battle had taken place here. It's all we need. Saren's head snapped in her direction. For me? You could make a cure? Yes, Len replied, before hesitating and avoiding Miss Chernobyl's gaze. She wouldn't like what came next. The psycho in the group clenched her fists. Go on, Nemo. Don't sugarcoat it. The alchemist, Len took a long deep breath. The alchemist already has a cure. Had it from the start. Saren abruptly froze in place, causing Shroud to bump into her back. Repeat that, the psycho said. But now her armored gauntlets had clenched so tightly that Ryan worried she might break them. It's... Saren's heavy gaze troubled Len. I should start at the beginning. If I understand the data collected. Elixirs come from the white world, but can naturally move from one colored dimension to another and immediately adapt to their new home's flux energy. And they use this flux to communicate? Shroud asked, trying to understand. Yes, Shorty confirmed with a nod. The alchemist decoded the elixir's language with the alien's technology, and with it, she can, how to say that? Educate them? Tell them how to recognize DNA, which species to bond with. If we associate gene therapy with the right flux message. We teach the elixirs to patch out the bugs, Ryan finished. It could even work for you, Len explained to Saren. Or Frank. It's all about the right signal. Ryan had expected Miss Gashole to be overjoyed. After all, she had spent a decade and a half as a cloud trapped in a suit. The possibility of becoming human again was a dream come true, and her previous self had been willing to consider murdering Ryan when she thought he wouldn't deliver. However, Saren had picked up on a worrying detail and wouldn't let it go. She had a cure, she said, her voice low and furious. That bitch had a cure all along, but didn't release it? Psychos weren't a bug, but a feature. Even Mr. Wave had turned serious. Why would she do that? Why would anyone do that? I cannot say, Len replied. All psychos are sterile due to their unstable genetic code, so they can't replace mankind the way genomes will. But what about the children of two genomes? Leo Hargraves asked at the front. I only know a few who were born after one or both parents consumed an elixir, Narcinia included. If a genome was above 15 years of age, they could only have earned their power from an elixir. Even Fortuna and Felix had taken elixirs, unlike their adoptive sister. If the creation of psychos was intentional, do children of genomes risk mutating too? Sunshine asked, clearly worried for innocent lives. I've seen a few genome children in my life, and all of them turned out fine, Ryan said. Also, in cases of one parent having powers and the other not, the child inherited a variant of the parent's abilities. I couldn't really figure out why exactly though. It's because elixirs use asexual reproduction, Riri, Len said. Like jellyfish. But they can also alter their double's makeup during the duplication. Ryan blinked behind his helmet, as the truth dawned on him. Wait, so if I had a child with a normie, my elixir would duplicate and pass on to the kid? To his horror, Len confirmed the theory with a nod. If one parent is a genome and the other is not, the elixir duplicates, fuses with the fetus, and slightly adapts the power to the new host. The thought of Ryan's children inheriting his power chilled him to the bone, and made him thankful that he had taken precautions against having a descendant. His power in itself was both a blessing and a curse, but in the hands of a child. It would make for nightmarish teenage years. If the parents are both genomes, Len cleared her throat. If both parents are genomes, the elixirs communicate during conception to avoid the pitfalls of the psycho condition. Instead of competing for a host, only one of the elixirs duplicates, but takes some information from the other. Since the child doesn't yet have dreams and desires yet, the child's elixir creates a power based on the two parents. So, to take Narcinia's example, Leo Hargraves asked, she was born a green genome, but with her power also being influenced by her father's yellow ability? Her mother could alter life, and her father could cut through anything, Shroud said. She can create life by cutting herself. Definitively green, but with some yellow inspiration. And since the children of genomes were always stable genomes, no matter the parent's nature, their numbers would only increase with time. Homo novus would phase out Homo sapiens, the way they did with the Neanderthals. Then what if, Shroud crossed his arms? And this is terrible to say it, but what if psychos were meant to kill as many normal people as possible? If the alchemist's plan is to make genomes supplant normal humans. Psychos by nature target other genomes first, Maddie, Ryan reminded him. And the random nature of powers meant creatures with world-ending powers like Bloodstream could arise. It can't be the only goal. While they had been arguing, the panda had reached the northwestern corner of the hangar. Sifu, we're close. He raised a paw at the wall. I can hear the source in this direction. We might have to take a detour, Leo Hargraves said, not finding any door. Mr. Wave, could you quickly tour the room and... Saren furiously raised a fist at the wall, and unleashed a fearsome shockwave at it. The black steel, brittle and weakened, cracked and collapsed before Miss Chernobyl's onslaught. A terrible noise echoed through the hangar, followed by a cloud of green and dark dust as the attack revealed a path into a new, gigantic corridor. The courier heard the sound of lasers, explosions, and most importantly, voices coming from it. I forgot to explain rule number 4. Ryan glared at Saren, hands on his waist. Avoid making too much noise. Too late, nerd, the furious psycho replied before stepping through the hole, her hands shaking in anger. Now she didn't want answers, but revenge. When I find her there will be blood, and it won't be my own. Ryan didn't have the heart to deny her wish, the rest of the group cautiously following her. The courier closed the march with Len. Shorty, would that cure work on you-know-who? Shorty looked down at the metal floor. Past a certain point, if a psycho couldn't stabilize their genetic code, the damage becomes so extensive that not even elixirs can correct it. She breathed long and deep. The alchemist she has others in storage. Other bloodstreams. Psychos who had degraded to the point they had become an entirely different form of life. The more he learned about this place, the more Ryan was convinced it had to go by whatever means necessary. The group followed the noise of battles all the way to a spotless, well-lit chamber deeper into the complex. All blast doors on the way had been torn apart, and Ryan had to leap over the wreckage. The next room was a fortified security checkpoint, with more than 24 troopers in futuristic, sleek blue bodysuits firing at a giant monster over improvised barricades of scrapped metal. Behind them stood a damaged blue gate 9 meters in height, which unlike the rest of the facility looked relatively intact. Some of the defenders wore helmets, others did not, but they all shared the same facial features. Short black hair, blue eyes, plain features, and a determined expression. Their weapons included rifles unleashing familiar red lasers, organic cannons identical to the ones used by E.T., and stranger devices looking like purple rods. On the other side of the chamber, closer to Ryan's team, an orange portal had opened in the very fabric of space, letting a colossal creature step halfway through. The entity reminded Ryan of a concrete cube more than 8 meters in diameter, except with 6 tiny golden legs to carry it. Lasers inflicted no damage to the creature, and it smashed one of the barricades with a leg. The blow sent scraps and troopers flying, the soldiers collapsing into blue particles when they hit the gate behind them. The survivors with rods used them to unleash violet projectiles tearing space apart. Ryan identified these weapons as focused violet flux, and unlike his black particles, reality absorbed the damage they caused after a while. When they hit the concrete creature though, the projectiles tore through its body as if it were made of clay. The barrage pushed the creature through the portal and it vanished into the orange flux rift, at least for now. With the threat dealt with for now, the troops peeked over the improvised fortifications to observe the newcomers. Ryan's group moved between the barricade and the portal, careful not to be close to any of them. Eva Fabre, I suppose, the courier asked. You have a lot of twins. You are clones, Len whispered. Quantum duplicates, a trooper said. Since the doubles collapsed into blue flux, Ryan guessed that the alchemist's power followed the same rules as Livia's. She created simulations indistinguishable from the real thing. Quick save, another Eva Fabre said, recognizing Ryan. Living Sunday. The time traveler bristled, as his team took a fighting formation. Len and Ryan stayed at the back, the Panda, Sunshine, and Shroud in the middle, and a furious Saren at the front with Mr. Wave. You know us? Leo Hargraves asked, while keeping an eye on the portal as if expecting the creature to crawl out of it again. We have been watching you for a while, ever since you defeated Case BIH-006 in Sarajevo, a trooper replied. BIH. Bosnia-Herzegovina. They were talking about Mekrin. Your power is of the highest interest to us, another said, looking at Ryan. Your time anomaly's ability to affect our entire reality was deemed a milestone in our chronotech research. We made plans to safeguard your genetic data for future storekeeping, but other projects demanded our full attention. We saw you on security cameras, but the situation here is critical. We would be happy to discuss that, after reasserting direct control, a clone finished. Will you help us? Hell no. Saren took a heavy step forward. Why? The Eva clones all raised an eyebrow at the same time, some exchanging glances. Why should you help us? One of them asked. This facility is under attack by hostile extraterrestrial entities that must be eradicated for the sake of the human RA. Why the fuck? Saren snarled, hands raised at the doubles. Why the fuck did you turn me into this? Who is she again? One Eva Fabre asked her doubles. One of the mutants working with Case USA 3682, another trooper answered. Codename Adam the Ogre. Oh yes, I remember. But I don't think we gave that one a case file. Don't think so either. Saren could clearly barely restrain herself from murdering them all where they stood. You don't even know my name. We didn't need to, and Eva shrugged, uncaring. We didn't force you to take 2 elixirs, if that is your question, another had the gall to say. If you experience discomfort, blame your greed. Saren raised her gauntlets to blast them, but Mr. Wave quickly moved in the way to stop her. Leo Hargraves still had questions, though his radiance had turned into a more scarlet shade of crimson than usual. His body language radiated restrained anger. Why make it possible to create psychos in the first place? The carnival leader asked, while Ryan observed the troopers. Something bothered him about them, but he couldn't explain why. Why all this sorrow? For mankind to take their rightful place as masters of the universe, one of the Evis answered calmly. As for psychos, if by that term you refer to bicolored mutants, we wish to understand how flux abilities from different colored dimensions would interact together, another clone added. We thought the potential synergies would greatly surpass monocolored powers, perhaps even lead to a genome capable of overriding reality itself. But we couldn't test the theory on a small sample of people. We needed something larger. We were lab rats to you, the panda asked, his cute bear-like face morphing into a horrified expression. But you could have destroyed the world. She did, Mr. Wave replied, clearly not amused. And she left it for Mr. Wave to piece it back together. Do you think we are so careless? One Eva asked, completely oblivious to her own hypocrisy. The ecosystem damage was taken into account. We had enough genetic samples to clone a human sustainable population if the worst came to pass, and projects for Martian colonies. The chances of Earth's destruction were considered slim. Almost negligible. An acceptable loss, if the worst came to pass. Less drastic alternatives might have failed to establish a suitable Homo novice population. Mass release guaranteed Homo sapiens decline within 200 years, according to our projections. You ruined this planet, you insane sociopath. Shroud snapped. You killed billions. The outburst didn't even faze them. Yes, a patient often experiences significant pain when a shock treatment is used, but in the end, what matters is that the cure works. Mankind's temporary discomfort will be quickly forgotten in the next age, when we establish colonies in the solar system and expand. You don't care about mankind, Saren snapped. You pay lip service to it, but deep down you don't give a shit. Energy built up in her gauntlets. You're just like Adam. We don't eat people, a clone replied, completely missing the point. Now, if you are done with your childish tantrum, we would be happy to teach you why this was necessary after we retake the facility. Do you? Though he couldn't see her face beneath the armor, Ryan recognized the anger in Len's voice. She hadn't sounded this angry since she learned of how Dynamis turned bloodstream into a product. You killed billions, ruined my father's life, all this despair and destruction. Do you feel any regret? The response was swift and chilling. No, all the Evis answered at once. No, of course not, one said, as if it had been a stupid question. Imagine a time when humans will reshape the very fabric of reality, like painters with a canvas? The universe is a dangerous place, continued another. A stress test was necessary to prepare mankind for the dangers ahead. And then came the coup de grace. We did what was necessary. One shrugged. It was a dirty job, but someone had to do it. One day, you will understand. Ryan had met many monsters and megalomaniacs in his life. Bombastic psychos, fanatical genome warlords, god wannabes. He thought he had heard it all. But that woman's voice, that complete, clinical disregard for human life, even Big Fat Adam and Augustus showed more emotion, even if it was cruelty. But the alchemist didn't feel even that. Eva Fabre had destroyed the world for the sake of a pipe dream, and gave absolutely zero fucks. You've seen what those lizards were up to, Ryan said, reaching a terrifying realization. I wondered why you never even considered that following in their footsteps was a terrible idea, but now I understand. Elixirs grant people their dearest wishes, and yours was to have an army of copies telling you how great you are. You turned this spaceship into an echo chamber. We considered that possibility and dismissed it, the Evis all answered at once. We all are simulations from different universes. But you're still somehow all Eva Fabre, Ryan pointed out. Don't you get it? You may have different experiences, but there are enough similarities that you still count as the same person. Enough that you can complete each other's sentences. If she truly created different simulations, then some would have protested against this horrifying course of action. But none of them did. Of course her power wouldn't summon copies that could oppose her, and whatever good intentions she might have had, years with only slavish clones for company had slowly eroded Eva Fabre's critical thinking. She was even more narcissistic than Augustus. I have heard enough. Sunshine floated above the ground, no longer a warm morning sun, but a vengeful fireball. Carnival, arrest this woman, he ordered. Shroud turned invisible, Mr. Wave cracked his knuckles and stepped out of Saren's way, while even the panda looked furious. Len herself prepared her water cannons, thoroughly done with words. Eva Fabre, you are under arrest for genocide, human experimentations, and crimes against humanity. If you surrender, you will be granted a fair trial before a citizen jury. Resistance will be met with lethal force. You want to arrest us? And Eva asked. The worst part, she sounded genuinely surprised. Years spent with only her clones for company had eroded all potential for self-reflection, to the point that she had expected the other genomes to fall in line on principle. We made you into gods. Then you shall be smote. Mr. Wave replied while turning into a laser, and charging straight at the barricades. The Evis answered with a volley of lasers, and Ryan froze time while his team prepared to charge. The courier looked up at the orange portal still fluctuating in the frozen time, and then at the giant gate behind the alchemists, as blue as the sea. Beyond this door was the starship's command center. He could feel it in his gut. Now, he just had to fight his way inside. 1:15, the Clone War. The room erupted into chaos the moment time resumed. Red lasers and space-piercing bullets faced shockwaves, solar flares, streams of pressurized water, and a storm of glass. Yet it was a kung fu-powered bear that made the most spectacular contribution, smashing through the alchemist clones' barricades right after Mr. Wave. The panda pulverized 2 clones while leaking blood from half a dozen lasers, transforming back and forth to regenerate, always staying on the move to avoid a fatal blow. Ryan himself did his part, punching any clone within his reach while quipping. However, the situation had become so confusing that he needed to freeze time to check up on his allies. Mr. Wave was busy poking the alchemist's clones to death. Shroud shielded his allies with reinforced glass barriers, while an enraged Saren fired shockwave after shockwave in a berserk rage. Yet no matter the group's ferocity, the alchemists' numbers only increased. One Eva Fabre clone duplicated by a factor of 10, and the new doppelgangers followed her example. Most appeared unarmed, or with human weapons such as rifles and guns. However, a few of the original doubles used strange gauntlet devices to teleport alien weapons to equip their copycats. Ryan figured that they used the same principle as Mars power, accessing an armory in a separate pocket dimension. Which also meant that while the alchemist's power could replicate physical matter, flux-based tech remained beyond her reach. It made sense in a way. Eva Fabre was a blue genome, so how could she replicate the source of green or red powers? Ryan decided to focus on the clone suppliers first, but some of the new recruits materialized with suicide belts and attempted to blow themselves up in his face. The courier was forced to repel them using his armor's weapons. Unfortunately, this gave time for the clone army to organize. When they realized that Ryan was trying to make a beeline to the gate they were protecting, the suppliers among the doppelgangers distributed gauntlet devices to a regiment of new recruits. 24 Evis formed a barrier of bodies, their tools projecting a crimson shield. A beehive-like hexagonal barrier now protected the gates, one tough enough to resist Ryan's gravity gun. Guessing what Ryan had in mind, Mr. Wave attempted to assist, turning into a laser and smashing into the clone's defense. The crimson shield repelled him, so he tried again and again, prodding the barrier from all angles, even jumping into the air to strike the defenders from above. Though the doppelgangers held the line, their shields often flickered on impact. Much like ET's technology, their machinery ran on a limited supply of juice and would eventually run out. However, for once in Ryan's life, time wasn't on his side. Not only were the clones summoning more of themselves, they also organized better. Groups of energy shield users formed security barriers around the arsenal suppliers, allowing them to arm the reinforcements with minimal interference. 2 groups of 6 laser users each trapped the panda in a pincer attack, and though the man-bear moved swifter than lightning, he couldn't outrun light. The doppelgangers gave him no breathing room and pushed him back against the orange world portal, slowly, but certainly. By now, the dead released so many blue flux particles that the whole room looked like a smurf party. "Riri, behind you!" Len shouted just as time resumed, the courier noticing 2 Evis raising a rifle with a 2-meter-wide barrel at him. He barely had the time to dodge to the side to avoid a green flux blast, which ended up turning the metal walls into wood upon impact. "Oh, an eco-responsible weapon," Ryan said, as Len beheaded the clones with a stream of pressurized water. Shorty moved to cover him, while he engaged the nearest doubles in melee. "I want one." If only they weren't trying to exterminate the last panda, the Evis might have been true planeteers. His other allies didn't fare any better. Some clones could see Shroud even while he turned invisible, and forced him to stay on the defensive by raising glass barriers to stop projectile volleys. Saren's shockwaves overpowered shield users, but her power armor had cracks here and there. Only Leo Hargraves pushed the clones back rather than otherwise, bombarding them with blinding, fiery blasts. Saren's repeated shockwaves ended up structurally damaging the room, and a good fourth of the floor collapsed to reveal a black sea of alien machinery and energy cables below the metal panels. Sunshine raised an advancing wall of flames, trapping hundreds of Evis between his fire and the floor's hole. In response, a clone threw a round silver device at Leo Hargraves. The living sun quickly melted it in midair, but his action caused the device to unleash a 6 meters wide wave of immaculate energy. The white pulse destroyed any doppelganger it touched, and more worrying, instantly reverted Sunshine to his human form. The carnival's leader fell down and would have died hitting the floor below, if Mr. Wave hadn't disengaged from his assault on the force shield to catch his ally in time. Shroud immediately raised barriers after barriers of glass to protect his teammates, but this only allowed the clones to surround the trio, their focused lasers slowly melting the defenses. Worse, the orange portal in the room flickered, and the same cubic monster from last time started crossing through. Perhaps the chaos in the room had caught its attention. In any case, the panda was the closest to the rift when the creature stepped through, and it summarily kicked the bear out of the way. Clones tried to repel the orange world creature with a projectile volley, but only managed to halt its arrival. This was getting nowhere. "The real one is not here," Ryan shouted through his armor's loudspeakers, pointing a hand at the gates. He had moved no more than a few meters away from it with judicious applications of his power, but the shield users still barred the way. "She's behind these doors." He doubted that any of his teammates heard him except for Shorty, until Saren's voice echoed over the melee. "Move out of the way, nerd." Ryan activated his armor's jetpack and flew away, as a mighty shockwave pulverized the clone regiment guarding the gates, short-circuiting their shields and vaporizing the wielders. However, the blast failed to affect the doors themselves, with no crack appearing on their blue surface. Still, it allowed the courier and Len to reach the gates. Then the firing stopped. Ryan peeked over his shoulder, watching as a crimson and orange shape emerged from the hole Saren made in the ground. A monstrous reptile in advanced power armor, whose very sight caused the unfazed Eva clones to freeze in terror. E.T.'s little brother had come, and brought its nephews. A dozen alien soldiers emerged from the holes gargling and roaring. Most were carbon copies of the creature Ryan's group defeated earlier, but one of them was twice the normal size, a horned horror with 9 eyes and great draconic wings. A species instinct that never truly died awakened, as the humans in the room briefly stopped their battle to focus on the outside threat. The Eva clones pointed their weapons at the newcomers, while Sunshine managed to transform back into a fiery sun and bathe the alien vanguard with searing flames. The extraterrestrial creatures responded by teleporting around the room, tearing through Eva's doppelgangers with claws and beams. The winged alien instead chased after Sunshine, while an ET turned its armor into adamantine and attempted to tear the panda apart. Another soldier noticed Ryan and Len, but was forced to deal with a group of Evas before it could give pursuit. If one of these aliens had been a match for his entire team, a whole group of them would tear through any opposition. Ryan's group and the alchemist could resist for a while, maybe even win, but if more of these critters arrived... Well, Ryan was in no hurry to reload now. Mr. Wave, who had raced across the room to get the panda to safety behind Shroud's glass barrier, briefly stopped at Ryan and Len's side. Mr. Wave and Co. will hold them off, the genome said, as an alien soldier roared at them. Go get them, Tiger. You're sure? Len asked, worried. She understood that they would only buy minutes. Mr. Wave has never been happier. The living laser raised a thumb up. He can kill them more than once. Ryan didn't find any fault with that logic, and answered with a thumb up of his own. Mr. Wave immediately tackled the approaching alien soldier head-on, sending it flying backward, before reinforcing Saren. The lively Psycho used shockwaves to push the concrete orange monster back through the rift. Can you hack through these gates? Ryan asked Shorty. Give me a menu. Len didn't finish her sentence, as the blue gate reacted the moment she touched it. It slid open in a blink, granting the duo entrance. The truce ended right there, as the remaining Evas attempted to stop Ryan from reaching the door with a volley of projectiles. But he froze time, grabbed Shorty, and moved into the next room while dodging lasers. The gates immediately closed behind him when time resumed, isolating them from the chaos outside. The courier could barely see a glimpse of Sunshine engaging in an aerial duel with the alien dragon before the separation. The room Ryan and Len had walked into was clearly the starship's command center, and reminded the courier of Mecran's mainframe. A colossal biomechanical brain pulsated in the middle of a glass pillar, hooked to a dome of nerve-like cables by biomechanical circuits. The duo found the real Eva Fabre connected to the machinery. Though age had wrinkled her face and turned her black hair white, Ryan recognized her facial features. A human head was all she had left though. A hideous biomechanical body supported her skull, a grotesque parody of a human skeleton with elongated arms, life support systems, and artificial organs pulsating in an iron rib cage. Here Asshole Prime stood, with her eyes closed. Cables linked her head to the glass tank and the giant brain within, much like how Alchemo's technology allowed him to experience captured mind's memories. Ryan noticed other strange tendrils hanging from the glass tank, probably to allow multiple people to connect to the machinery. She's sleeping? Len asked, as the alchemist made no attempt to stop their approach. She remained in the thrall of a deep, peaceful slumber. Ryan guessed that the body modifications enhanced her control over the alien technology. Much like Alchemo, she had cast out everything getting in the way of pure processing power. Eva Fabre had embedded herself into the starship's mainframe, like a tick on a cow's hide. Soaking herself in its technology, knowledge, and power, never interacting with the world outside except through the safety of a screen. She lived in a snow globe, sheltered from all consequences. Damn it, this is Monaco all over again, Ryan said. He wondered how much the technology had affected her, though. Ryan suspected that hooking oneself up to an imperialistic civilization's brain hadn't improved her sanity. Do we? Len pointed her weapons at the alchemist's head, hesitating. Eva Fabre's eyelids opened. The eyes were gone too, replaced with black cameras. They glanced at the two genomes, as soulless as anything else in this cold, artificial place. I dreamed too long, the alchemist said, her voice nothing more than a soft rattle. Her artificial organs flared with red light, a thin layer of crimson energy forming over her head and body. I dreamed of you invaders, stepping into my metal veins and spreading your rot. She moved her hand to grab Len, with Ryan responding by freezing time and shooting the H.R. Geiger nightmare in the face with his chest weapon. But not only did the biomechanical monstrosity keep moving in the frozen time, but his gravity bullet also bounced off her black armor. Your time anomaly is powerful, quick save, but nothing unexpected. The alchemist froze while her metal fingers were within an inch of Shorty's head, for she had suddenly noticed the black particles and purple flux phantom next to Ryan himself. Black flux? Ryan exploited her confusion to end his time stop, allowing Shorty to realize the danger and back away. The alchemist's metal hand smashed the floor, striking with enough strength to cause a small quake. Guess you don't know everything about us, Ryan said, as he opened fire again, Shorty assisting him with torpedoes and pressurized water. No matter what you do, my progress will not be stopped. The alchemist glared at the duo, none of their attacks bypassing her energy shield. Why are you fighting me, my children? I created you, forged you into gods. You should be fighting the aliens outside, not your maker. Shorty's response was short and to the point. You killed billions. What happens outside these walls means nothing, the alchemist replied, her eyes flaring blue. Immediately, a dozen Eva Fabre clones materialized around her, each carrying either a rifle or a submachine gun. With this ship, I can restart life anytime I wish. Only the data matters. The alchemist should have been at least 60 years old, and Ryan could tell time inside this pocket dimension behaved abnormally. Yet the clones looked no older than 30. All were humans, instead of a biomechanical horror like their master. Ryan quickly formed a theory. Eva Fabre's doubles remained the same, because she hadn't aged inside. Ryan and Len quickly dispersed as the clones opened fire, while the original remained immobile, her head still hooked to the central brain. The courier's armor sent alarm signals, as it noticed streams of foreign data invading the weapon systems. Damn, Asshole Prime was trying to hack into his suit. So, you think you can improve the welfare of mankind by sacrificing the old one to make your new, improved version? Ryan asked, attempting to destroy the clones only to realize his chest weapon had stopped working. She clearly cared more about the idea of humanity than its actual people, that was for certain. Have you heard of human rights? I have seen other worlds beyond this dimension, the alchemist rasped haughtily. In one of them, the nations of the world were laid low by a flu. No disease will ever ravage genomes, nor will invaders from other worlds. You will not interfere with the march of progress. Who elected you? Ryan replied, freezing time for a second to smash some clones, then backing away to avoid a punch from the original. I was democratically chosen by the plushy majority, gave universal healthcare to my psycho followers, and fought bravely against the red tide threatening our way of life. What did you do? Governments are for those who cannot lead, the original Eva Fabre replied, summoning more reinforcements even while Len struggled to keep them at a manageable number. Half a dozen clones turned into 20, and these started making copies too. Most humans live a short-sighted existence, caring for nothing more than their own personal comfort. They do not have the courage to make the necessary decisions. And who do you lead, clones of yourself? Ryan asked with a snort, rushing towards the biomechanical brain's tank. You've never led anyone in your life. You offered no guidance, raised no nation, inspired no follower. You wrecked the old world, and then you hid among the penguins instead of helping us get back on our feet. Hell, I'm sure you killed everyone at your old workplace when you couldn't convince them to join you. It was an elaborate guess based on what he had learned from Bacchus, but the abomination's eyes flared with annoyance. Ryan had struck a nerve. You did, he said. They couldn't understand, Asshole Prime replied dismissively, while some of her clones nodded in agreement. Neither do you. Or else she wouldn't be trying to kill him in the first place. Eva Fabre didn't understand Ryan's true ability, nor of all the possibilities where the likes of Bloodstream ravaged the earth. Her supposed omniscience had holes. Pushing past doubles, and ignoring his armor's alarms as the firewalls collapsed one after the other, Ryan grabbed one of the neutral tendrils hanging from the glass tank. Like for example, could you tell me what would happen if I tried to connect to that big brain of yours? You cannot, Asshole Prime replied, while raising a hand to grab him. You are a violet. Only blues can pilot this ship. Even your friend is too weak. The overmind will overwhelm her. I wasn't thinking of piloting this ship. And with that, Ryan froze time, black flux flying out of his armor. The alchemist could only blink in horror, as black particles touched the alien tendril, and infected their way into the glass tank. You fool! Her giant hand moved to swipe him aside, and when Ryan attempted to jump away, his armor refused to move. She had hacked the motors. Time resumed just as her fist hit him. Ryan heard the armor's plates crack under the strain of the blow, and flew across the room like a wingless bird. He hit the blue door in a catastrophic crash, before falling on his chest, unable to move an inch. But it changed nothing. The black taint spread through the biomechanical brain, rotting parts of its neurons. Stop this! The alchemist's eyes shone with a blue hue, her biomechanical hand moving to the sides of her head, but she couldn't halt the collapse. Her clone stopped attacking Len to rush at the brain, but the damage was already done. Stop! Say pretty please, Ryan replied, unable to move his armor. Shorty, who still could take a step, moved in front of her best friend to protect him. If you do not stop, you will destroy the elixir factory, the labs, all our backups. Eva Fabre screamed, her voice turning deeper like a broken machine. The clones echoed her screams, collapsing into nothingness. This ship holds eons of accumulated knowledge, wisdom, and technology. I have barely explored half of it, and what I discovered, cloning, mind transfer, unlimited energy sources, immortality. You will send mankind back by thousands of years. Ryan shrugged. I couldn't stop this, even if I wanted to. You must. The alchemist punched the glass tank with her giant hands, perhaps trying to manually remove the black infection. But even her phenomenal strength couldn't bypass the Overmind's shield. Half the biomechanical brain had darkened, consumed by otherworldly darkness. Or the glorious future I have seen for our race will never come to pass. Perhaps, Ryan admitted. But at least you won't be in charge of it. As the brain turned black, so did the room. The lights darkened, while rifts in the fabric of space spread. An army of black holes opened all across the ship's chamber, consuming the metal doors, the glass tank, the floor. Riri, what did you do? Len panicked, while the alchemist hastily removed the cables linking her to the mainframe in a desperate attempt to escape the infection. This place is thin enough to create portals to other colored realms, the courier explained. A black rift opened where the biomechanical brain used to be, tearing it apart. So I called for help. And something peeked through the portal. To Ryan, it seemed as if a black wave erupted from the rift to devour all of reality. The darkness consumed a screaming Eva Fabre, tearing through her energy shield and swallowing her whole. The walls turned to dust around the courier, the blackness spreading through the ship. Ryan caught a glimpse of an alien pointing its gun at an unconscious panda's face, only to freeze in horror as the black tidal wave approached. The light of Leo Hargraves shone briefly in the dark, only to disappear too. Ryan lost sight of Shorty, as the darkness separated them. An alien cold entered his armor, yet it was neither chilling nor uncomfortable. The courier floated alone in a lightless void, like a fish returning home. "Darkling?" Ryan called out to the darkness. "Darkling? Anyone?" The void answered. "I am here." An alien shape floated to his side. It was geometric chaos that gave Ryan a headache simply to gaze at it. Triangles turning into cubes, feathers of steel, and bones dancing. "I love your new look," the courier greeted his old friend. "Thank you. Are my friends safe outside?" A tunnel of light appeared not so far from the time traveler's location. The courier watched the frozen expanse of Antarctica beyond the portal, with Shorty, the panda, all his companions lying unconscious on the ground. Stitch and Adam Kitten, who had waited outside the anomaly, immediately rushed to their help. Only Sunshine remained unaffected, standing still and watching back through the tunnel. Could he see the black world beyond? Ryan also noticed colored sparks in the darkness. Blue puddles and red stars, orange slimes, and greenish.
Go.
Swirling away into nothing. They swirled around a colossal black hole entity, like children led by a parent. "Are these the ship's elixirs?" Ryan asked. The strange entity changed its shape slightly, flattening. Ryan took it for a nod. "The Ultimate One will return the captives home, and this starship will disappear from your timeline. When you turn back time, the rest of your dimension will not be impacted, but this place, it will be gone." "And the alchemist? The reptilians?" The entity took a shape similar to a red line of jagged, inhuman teeth. Ryan had never seen a smile more terrifying. "I do not want to know?" the courier asked innocently. "No, you do not," Darkling replied, before taking a less horrifying, but all too confusing shape. "But they will not trouble you, ever again." The wording sent a chill down Ryan's spine. This alchemist was not wrong in one aspect, Darkling said. Ascension is a right granted to all living things, but it cannot be forced. Wisdom comes with time, and you humans are so very young. "Will you be there for my 900th birthday?" Ryan joked. "Maybe," Darkling sounded vaguely amused.
Aww.
He could get Ryan's jokes now. "One day your kind might stand at the side of the Ultimate Ones. Until then, we elixirs will remain among you, and your descendants. When you decide to aim for the stars, and venture forth into the unknown, we will walk with you. Always. You know, once I came to this place to die, but," Ryan smiled behind his helmet. "Now I hope to live long enough to see mankind explore the universe." Darkling's shape changed into a sphere of light. "You have something to live for now." Yes. Yes, he did. "I should go back," Ryan said. If he trusted his experience, staying too long in the black world might permanently change him. "But before I go, I have a question." "Ask." "Is my black power getting stronger?" Black consumes. A paradox is self-reinforcing. Each reality you consume, each color you devour, increases your power. You asked for an end to what cannot die, and the more you destroy what should never die. Black's logic becomes your reality's logic. Darkling remained silent an instant, before offering a warning. "Beware. Black is anathema to the laws that bind you into a man's shape. If you are not careful, it will consume you too." Ryan's thoughts turned to the alchemist, and how the black flux had consumed her alien technology. Yes, he would rather avoid seeing his armor painted black. I will keep it in mind. There are still obstacles for you to overcome, but I think you are ready. The pieces are set, Darkling floated away. I will be watching you, my friend. You don't wish me luck? Ryan asked, as the portal grew closer to him. What use is there for luck, for a man like you? Somehow, even if it came from an alien creature. Darkling managed to make these words sound warm and encouraging. Ryan floated through the portal, and an instant later crashed on icy ground. Finally, the courier heard Felix say, as his favorite kitty rushed to his side. I thought you were a goner. I'm a tougher mouse than that, kitten. With the alchemist gone, Ryan's armor worked again, and he managed to move his head around. Stitch was already tending to the wounded, but everyone seemed to have made it to the other side. Saren's armor had cracked in some spots, and more tragically, Mr. Wave's clothes had holes in them. And Leo Hargraves floated above them all, thoughtfully looking at the horizon. You went there too once, Ryan guessed. Years ago, Sunshine replied, descending down to earth. I was afraid of the dark back then. Of the unknown. I thought I almost died inside that place, but now I wonder. Ryan would be happy to exchange tales around a coffee. Felix helped the courier back to his feet, the armored time traveler glancing at the frozen rift where he last opened a portal to the alchemist's lair. His resonator had become inactive, the rift closed. Of the alchemist's lair and dream, nothing remained. Nothing but memories. 116, Couple Therapy. Psychos had been a fact of life for 15 years. Ryan had visited hundreds, if not thousands of communities through his long existence, and almost all of them shared the same tales. Maddened monsters attacking them at night, mutants hiding in sewers, raiders attacking their genome defenders, or fools trying to imitate Augustus only to come up short. Psychos had collectively killed the courier many times, coming in as a close second behind traffic accidents. His adoptive father Bloodstream had caused his very first death, and it still gave Ryan headaches to remember it. Nobody could imagine a world without Psychos. Until today. The refurbished laboratory of Station Orpheon was far lighter and warmer than the alchemist's, with white walls, glowing bars in the ceiling casting a pleasing light, and the sweet, sweet smell of morning coffee permeating the air. Ryan's host of geniuses, namely Shorty, Alchemo, and Stitch, had gathered behind control panels and thrumming computers. Meanwhile, the panda happily cleaned up a large vat in the northern corner of the room with a sanitizer. All were gearing up for an experiment that might change the world's face forever, though their patient lacked their enthusiasm. I don't want to go inside, Sweet Saren grumbled at Ryan's side, arms crossed. Find another way, nerd. There isn't, Ryan replied. Truth be told, nothing guaranteed that the operation would work at all. Even though they had copied the alchemist's research data before destroying her base, the group didn't have her wealth of alien technology. Come on, you fought aliens and you're afraid of a glass tube? Instead of blasting him where he stood, Saren let out a grunt. It's not the vat, she said. It's getting out of that suit? Ryan guessed, avoiding any joke or jab. The woman had suffered for years from her condition, never feeling anything nor experiencing joy. Taunting her on that front, especially now, would feel like kicking a cancer patient. Saren shook her head. Doesn't matter. You wouldn't bring this up if it didn't, Ryan replied. You know, I'm a certified therapist and I've seen everything. I'm here if you need an ear. I ain't like your princess, Saren scoffed. I don't need a white knight. You think I'm that weak? I don't think you're weak, just alone. Though the psycho didn't answer, Ryan could tell from her posture that he had nailed it. And even that is a thing of the past. I mean, we had a good time raiding drug churches, exploring new continents, freeing the government from both the reptilians and the Illuminati. It was nice, the psycho agreed, looking away at the geniuses toiling away behind their computers. And you're following up with your promise, which is more I can say from Adam. You ain't a fink. See? Ryan decided to share some wisdom accumulated over centuries of time travel. If you keep all your feelings for yourself, you're never going to get over your fears and neuroses. Either you become more open with others, or you need to blow off steam. If you want to follow the latter path, I would suggest bullying Ghoul. I would rather hit Adam, Saren replied, before raising her hands and moving her fingers. The movements were unnatural, gas pushing cloth from the inside. Every time I get out of my suit, I fear getting scattered to the winds. Stretching for miles, feeling my mind slip away with the distance. You can't imagine how it feels, nerd. No, I can't, the courier admitted. Though you already left your suit behind once, when we made an FBI raid on Ischia. I know that the experiment is as safe as it can be around you. Saren sighed. But I still feel weak, and I hate it. Ryan crossed his arms, meditated on what to say next, and then uttered a single word. Bianca? Saren bristled at her true name being spoken, as if she had forgotten it. Being vulnerable is never easy, Ryan said, trying to find the right words. Especially not with others. After building strong and thick walls around ourselves, it's difficult to tear them down. Saren snickered. Easy for you to say, Mr. Time Traveler. It's not as perfect a crutch as it seems. At this point, Ryan had decided to fully come clean to everyone not in the know yet among his group. Saren had been the first, but the courier hoped to have a discussion with Felix and especially Mr. Wave. The former already suspected something was up, and the latter. Ryan owed him much more than his love of Kashmir. You know, when Livia and Ryan took a deep breath, before speaking his mind. I was scared of her, at first. Very few things scared me since I got my power, but she topped all of them. She could remember. She could kill you for good, Saren guessed. Throw her daddy at you? That and worse. Ryan shuddered at what Livia could have done, if she had taken more after her thunderous father. For the first time in many, many years, I had to be honest with someone that wasn't my best friend. Like a bear cornered in his cave. It was difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
now she's my first lady, but she could have easily been my Lee Harvey Oswald too. Who? Saren asked, showing an absolute lack of culture. That inane question was proof that anyone could become Ryan's vice president these days, which he took as a badge of honor. The courier prided himself on his government's inclusivity. All of this to say that it took me a while to trust Livia, and even longer to feel at ease around her, the courier explained his point. We struggled to conquer our fear of the other, but in the end, it was worth it. All the pain and the fear led to something better. Do you see my point? No. Oh well, then you're on your own. Saren chuckled. Seriously, I get it, she said. That day is going to make all the efforts and struggle worth it. Maybe I'll get diabetes with my new body. Genomes can't develop diabetes, Ryan said absent-mindedly. My life has been a long string of frustration and disappointments, smartass. He could almost taste the bitterness in his ally's voice. Even before Adam. Each time I hope it will change, and I'm always left disappointed. Not anymore. Taking that leap of faith might sound hard, but it will be rewarding. Really? She asked. You know, I agreed to follow you on this stupid mission because part of me hoped that the alchemist had a plan for us. That what I went through had a purpose. Well, as it turned out, I was just experimental junk. That's the thing with life, we have no purpose, and we are completely free, Ryan said. Free to change, and live as we want. You know what's the worst part, nerd? Saren asked with sorrow. I've spent so much time looking for a cure, I'm not sure what I will do with my life if your idea works. You could start with community service. You worked with Adam for years, so you've got a lot to answer for. I'll leave the circus to the explosion brat. Saren glanced at the vat, seeing her gas mask's reflection in the glass. What will you do after you're done with all our messes? I'm not sure yet. Like Saren, Ryan hadn't planned anything beyond completing his perfect run. At first, I thought I would drive into the sunset towards new adventures, hopefully with Shorty in the back seat. If you leave New Rome, would there be room for one more? Your car ain't that big. I always have room for more minions, Ryan replied. But only if you call me Mr. President in public. Don't push it, Saren replied with amusement, while the panda emerged from the cleaned vat. What's up, Doc? Ryan asked his panda Juan. It's all good, Sifu. The panda declared with a raised paw. I removed all the germs from my fur too. Saren hesitated for a few more minutes, before finally deciding to take the leap of faith. She opened her hazmat suit, and let her gaseous body leak out. A cloud of alien chemicals emerged from the suit, and moved into the vat. It's going to be all right, Bianca, Ryan promised, as he and the panda closed the glass door behind her. This time, it will work. I swear. The gaseous cloud briefly took a vaguely humanoid shape, before turning back into formless mist. Of course it will be all right, Alchemo grumbled, while Len typed on the computer panel. You made us work day and night on this, you meatbag slave driver. I would be willing to keep this up for weeks, Dr. Stitch replied. This will change everything. We are ready to begin, Riri, Len said, barely staying in place. No doubt a part of her still hoped that if this experiment worked, it might help her father. The courier nodded, giving his assent. Cables linking the computers to the vat activated, while a plastic lamp projected a blue light above Saren's gas form. The panda, thanks to his multiple fields of expertise, had managed to translate the elixir's flux language based on the alchemist's notes. The process would be simple, in theory. The group would use a system based on the chronoradio to send signals to Saren's elixirs, guiding them into rewriting her DNA based on a new paradigm. One that followed Livia's ratio of Homo sapiens and Neanderthal genes, cleanly separating the psycho's powers. I worry about her mind, however, Dr. Stitch said. Modifying her body on such a deep level will give her a brand new brain. She will remember, Alchemo replied absent-mindedly. In fact, she would remember everything. When the elixirs bond with us, they see our thoughts and wishes, and translate them into flux, Ryan whispered, remembering what he had read from the alchemist's data. True genomes exist on two levels. The biological, and the immaterial. Ryan should have realized it before. Of all people in the room, he alone existed in two places and eras at once. Two brains separated across the time stream, yet sharing a single consciousness. Henceforth, his neurons weren't the full seat of his intellect. If a host's consciousness partly existed in flux form, then it would also explain cases like Mr. Wave, Sunshine, Geist, and Saren in particular. And in time, that ethereal consciousness grew in power, in wisdom, and strength, eventually becoming something too powerful for a body of flesh to contain. It would ascend into a greater form of existence. And since Ryan had safeguarded a copy of Bianca's molecular structure from his metagang loop, then they could ask her elixirs to reshape her current self while taking this information into account. Saren would regain her lost memories as she underwent her transformation. Hopefully. We're getting a signal, Len said, as the lamp changed color, from blue to red, from orange to yellow. The elixirs are communicating. Can you put on the loudspeaker? Ryan asked, curious. He wondered how elixirs discussed inside their host. Perhaps they were trying and failing to repair the damage they had caused to their host, unable to understand what they were dealing with. Maybe they casually divulged ancient secrets of the universe, like one would discuss pop culture. Len put on the loudspeakers, and an alien gargle quickly transformed into two digitized, and yet audible voices. And I say more hydrogen. Ryan winced at the words, though the voice sounded inhuman, the tone reminded of a hyperactive child. But that will make it more difficult to vibrate. Another answered, and didn't sound any more mature. How can our Homo sapien defend herself otherwise if she cannot project energy? She's almost died too many times already. You Reds, it's all about energy with you. She wouldn't need your shockwaves if you let me do my work. If I let you act without supervision, you would have turned her into a cumulonimbus. Look, our host wants to be free. Mastery of the gaseous state will fill her with happiness. You don't understand our host's feelings. She wanted to be strong to defend herself, to shake down everyone who could threaten her. She doesn't want to be free, she wants to be powerful. Power is all you care about. Never us. I'm the one trying to make this situation work. A difficult, awkward silence settled among the researchers as the elixirs debate grew more heated and bitter. You oranges don't get Homo sapiens at all, and you are ruining our host's ascension. You take that back, you heartless battery. I was here first. We were happy before you came into her life. Of course I came in, she's my Homo sapien, and you completely misunderstood her wish. She would never ascend under your care. Why can't you let me fix this? The panda, the man-bear coughed. The panda is having a tough family flashback. Me too, Len said, biting her lower lip. Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence. I think your elixirs should get a divorce, Ryan told Saren. The cloud inside the vat briefly took a humanoid shape, hand raised with the middle finger upward. I have heard enough, Alkimo said, connecting to the control panel with neural links embedded in his syringe finger. The light show inside the vat intensified, causing the elixirs to interrupt their debate. Huh, an elixir said, the red one from what Ryan had understood. We're receiving a transmission. Is that Eva? I hope it's Eva. Let me check. It's an instruction, the red elixir said, sounding astonished. Oh, we made a mistake? There are 2 Homo sapiens? 2 Homo sapiens in one flesh vessel? And the orange elixir's voice turned from confusion to horror. And we ruined them? The other, like any good partner, immediately blamed its fellow. No way, you didn't notice? I didn't notice because you distracted me. The orange elixir fell silent an instant, before speaking up again.
Aww.
We favored our main host so much, that we completely forgot about the other one. The ultimate ones won't be happy. Eva said humans often divide into twins, but I never thought our host could too. Their flesh vessels are so weird. Unlike Ryan's own elixir, these ones certainly couldn't read their host's thoughts very well, and their understanding of human biology left much to be desired. It said something that an anti-life entity from the void like Darkling had a better grasp of the human condition than these two. So we each get custody of one Homo sapiens? I'm taking the younger one, the red elixir said, immediately chastising its kindred. You neglected her. If you hadn't ruined our main host's ascension, I would have noticed the twin earlier. I'm sure you will ruin her too. I will show you. My Homo sapiens will ascend before yours. And so, the divorce was consummated, each elixir taking custody of a share of Bianca's DNA. The results immediately showed. Ryan looked on with amazement as Saren's gas cloud body started to condense. Her substance grew dense, orange chemicals were shaken by reddish vibrations. When her gaseous body had occupied the entire vat a few seconds before, it visibly shrank at a quick pace. The cloud took a humanoid shape smaller than Ryan himself. And then the bones appeared. "It's happening," Dr. Stitch muttered to himself, astonished. It's working." The others watched the scene in mesmerized silence, Ryan included. No joke came to his mind, as layers of flesh built upon the marrow, followed by a mantle of skin. Nails, hair, and eyes followed, one by one. When the process ended and the light died out, a man and a woman stared at each other, separated only by a door of glass. Somehow, Ryan had imagined Bianca as Vulcan's long-lost cousin, but he couldn't have been farther from the truth. His former vice president was thin and small, no taller than 1.50 meters and no older than 30. Her hair was short and messy, a dark shade of green with an orange shade at the tip, her teary eyes a deep shade of gray. She looked as if she hadn't eaten in years either. Bianca didn't open the vat's door from her side. She raised her hands and looked at them, as if they were foreign transplants. Her fingers then moved to her smooth white skin, brushing against her waist, her breasts, her neck, and shoulders. Bianca rediscovered her body, taking breath after breath like a newborn. "Get that meatbag address," Alchemo all but ordered his colleagues. "Why yes." The panda immediately bolted out of the laboratory room to look for clothes. Ryan softly opened the vat's door, letting fresh, conditioned air in. "Do you feel all right?" the courier asked, half expecting the woman to turn back into gas any moment. Considering the elixir's behavior, they might realize their mistake and undo the cure. "What's this thing?" Bianca asked, eyes closed as she hummed the air. Even her voice sounded different, deeper, and also human. That stuff. "It's called smell," Ryan replied, making use of his nose. "The pandas. He has quite the powerful presence." "I had forgotten I had a nose," she replied, before kissing her own shoulder to taste the sweat. "I had forgotten so much." Before Ryan knew what hit him, Bianca opened her arms and hugged him tightly. She buried her head on his shoulder, holding him close. "Fuck," Bianca said, tears pouring down her cheeks. Fuck. "It's all right," Ryan said, letting her cry to her heart's content and returning the hug. Many times he wished he had a friendly shoulder too. Len watched on from the control panel with a bright smile. Alchemo turned away from the scene, and Stitch examined the data while muttering to himself. "You fulfilled your promise," Bianca whispered so low the others didn't hear her, squeezing the courier tightly. "You remembered. You time-traveling asshole, you did it." "If you remember too," Ryan said, stroking her hair kindly, "then you should know I always fulfill my campaign promises." "How did you learn my name, jackass?" she asked upon breaking the hug, wiping away the tears. Her smile was awkward, but felt so raw and real. "I didn't tell you before that tin can of a genius took a sample."
Yeah.
He could see it in her eyes. This was the same Bianca who had sacrificed herself to delay Alphonse, Fallout Monada and give Ryan time. The transfer had worked, and another friend had followed the courier through time. "Let's say the Dynamis raid didn't go as planned," Ryan replied, as the panda returned with a basic shirt and pants. "But we can discuss that around a coffee cup." "I won't need clothes," Bianca replied, before glancing at the location of Ryan's most powerful weapon. "Undress." The courier blinked, while the panda covered his mouth in shock. "What?" the courier asked. "You're deaf?" "I told you back then, the first thing I would do after getting my life back would be to jump someone." "Hey, just because all my predecessors conquered the Secretariat pool doesn't mean that I have to do the same. This offer comes with a limited time, Mr. President, so you better get decided within the next 5 minutes or reload." Dr. Stitch's head perked up when he heard the last part, but Ryan remained firm in his devotion to Livia. "I'm sorry, but I'm married," the courier replied. "I have a spare cashmere suit though, which is the next best thing in the world." Bianca shrugged, finally grabbing the clothes offered to her. "You've got cigarettes? Alcohol?" she asked, as she put pants on. "Because I've got a lot of catching up to do." It had taken many loops and years of suffering, but the psycho condition finally had a cure.